write a course or to do something, I could have this to actually go back to, and it stopped me from going off and looking at different things. It just kept me on track. So I highly recommend going and having a chat with Adam, because it really did keep me on track. So the next, I actually cook. I was a Thermomix demonstrator, and I did that for about 8 years. So I love that machine back to front. But what I also liked, when I actually went down so many rabbit holes, I've always loved cooking. And when I was about 8, I think, my mum used to send me 50 cents to the butcher on a Saturday morning, and I would come home and Dad would have, bricks and a mesh and the firewood and everything, and I would just make my own hamburgers. I think that just kept me out of Mum's hair, but that it was an instigation into food and into cooking, and I really that instilled something in me, and I've always loved food. And Mum was a great cook, and Saturdays was just baking day. From the time she got up to the time we ate dinner, it was just the whole week's dinner, or the food for the lunches was all made. So I've using the pressure cooker in the middle, the pressure canner in the middle, for a lot of classes that I'm doing now. And the one on the far right the far left is a new mixer, and that enables me to make 5 loaves of bread at once, which is fabulous. So next, why isn't it moving? Okay, so we've got dehydrating classes. I think I've missed. Okay, so we've got dehydrating classes, and people come, they get a nice apron, and we have different classes. But I've got this is the girls all going for those pears that were dipped in toffee. They love those. I mean, they were just like little locusts when they came in. But we had, I show people how to do the fruit leathers, and fruit leather doesn't, the method that I show you doesn't have sugar in it. It does have a form of pectin, but pectin's actually good for you. So it's a healthy snack, great for lunches, hiking, all these. This particular class is all around things that you can take hiking, you can have in your desk at work without running, go and getting a Mars bar. You could go and have a toffee coloured apple or pear. I mean, that would be better than Mars bar sometimes. But we do a lot of, they're great for hiking, for camping, for kids' lunch boxes, and showing you that once you've actually dehydrated something, and it's packed well. That's my business is called Grow, Cook, Store. So we talk about growing, we talk about cooking or dehydrating or whatever method that we're going to be talking about, and then how to actually store that so that it becomes shelf stable. And there's various times that, the lengths that will actually work. So the next one, we've got the girls doing some work. Again, that's me. Oh, we'll be going backwards. So sorry. Okay, then we got some kale chips that were going into the dehydrator, and they've actually been, they've got like a cashew creamy type thing that goes over the top of them. So they're vegan as well as gluten-free, but they are divine. I tell you what, the girls just went through those like anything. So then we go have, there's not just fruit, there's vegetables as well. Absolutely fantastic to have mushrooms and things like that on hand that you can actually use in your cooking. Now, this is actually the pressure canning. So pressure canning is for things like meats and low acid foods. So they have to be cooked at a higher pressure. So you can do your favourite soups and stews, like beef pho or chicken and sweet corn, or, pea and ham soup or whatever, casserole dishes, that can actually last on your shelf for 5 years. So it is fantastic that you can actually take something off the shelf and have it. You don't have to actually defrost it. The freezer is really good, but you can actually stop having, save space in your freezer. Because I don't know about you, but freezer space is quite high real estate in our house. So you want to be, and how many times have you come home and you just go, I just don't feel like doing anything. But if you can just take something off the shelf and reheat it on the stove or steam it, it's ready in 10 minutes, and you've got something healthy, and you haven't gone to Uber Eats or had expensive takeaway. The other way that I really like to use this is if you have somebody come in unexpected, just you can have a few things that just chuck together and you've got a healthy meal. So this is actually canning, which is water bath canning, which is a different process again, but this is probably a good entry point for people to do, because you don't have to buy the pressure canner. You could just use a large pot, and as long as it's centimetres of water over the top of the jars when they're in the container, they can just boil away, and therefore high acid food. So and they will keep quite well, again, for 5 years or more on the shelf. Very easy. You don't have to spend the whole day cooking or doing any of this. You can prep it in a series of a couple of days and keep everything in the fridge, and then the next day put everything in the cans and then just can it. And it only takes about a couple of hours, and you're not doing the work. It's actually you're setting and just let it do its thing. Okay. So we've got some bread classes. Do the gluten-free and vegan bread classes. They're very popular, especially because there's a lot of them that use xanthan gum, and the one that's the higher one doesn't have that at all, and they're vegan, which is a little bit different, because some of those gluten-free that are out there use eggs, and this one doesn't. Okay, so it's Grow Cook Store, so that's me there. But I also wanted to just show you, I'll stop my share, some of the things that I've actually got at home already done. So we've got chickpeas that are actually done. Now, chickpeas and beans, any legumes can be done. They are a great bulk, and you probably buy those already done and have them on the can, but these taste better. You get more volume, and it's dirt cheap, and they're fantastic. So you could make a curry with those. You could put them into bolognese. You could, you can do whatever. They're just an absolutely fantastic. But you can also make hummus with that. So that's really good. I've got some capsicums that have actually been roasted, and then they've been put into a brine. These are all 5 years on the shelf, more than 5 years. We've got pears, and they've actually been done in a beautiful light syrup. Some of the ones I've done, I've put a very tiny little bit of cardamom in it, and it just gives it a really nice, and with homemade ice cream and just that, it's just, they're restaurant food. It really is. It's fantastic. Then we've got some tomatoes there that are roasted with some basil and garlic and onion, and they just sit there. So that particular is a base for so many different foods. It's not flavoured out. You could make it Italian, but you could make it, whatever. You could just put other spices. Indian goes really well. It's got the basil in it, but that doesn't matter too much. You can do that. And I've got beef stroganoff. So beef stroganoff has actually been done. I know, Caryn. It's like, yes, right. So the only thing with this is it's very liquidy. So because of the way that it's made, you then thicken the gravy. So you save the liquid in here, and then you just make a roux up and make the gravy with that. But how amazing is that, to actually have something like that? You don't even have to wait. And I've got mashed potato, or cube potatoes that have been canned. So all I do is take those out, put a little bit of spices on them, stick them in the air fryer. I've got those. Then I've got that. Chicken stock, any types of stocks that you've got makes fantastic. So you can put your rice with that, just make something very plain, but you've got a bit of flavour, or, whatever. Then I've got chicken. Now, we call this ugly chicken because it doesn't look too crash hot, but it is fantastic because you can actually shred it, and it's really good for sandwiches. You can put it in a curry. It's cooked already. So this is what I'm trying to impart, that busy people, working mums, anybody can actually have just a little bit of time, can actually make something like this. It's absolutely fantastic. So it's my passion to instill good values, good home cooked meals, but with today's appliances. I mean, you can do some of this. So even with the Thermomix, I can make, different types of pastes and things like that and still store them like that. If you're going to be entry point for quite a few things would be the dehydrator, because that's the cheapest form that you could purchase, not a big outlay. Then you would have the dehydrator. The dehydrator. Then you would have the canning, and the most expensive is actually the freezer, because you've actually got to buy a freezer. So cost effective, the dehydrator is the cheapest of the whole lot to actually get into it. But, like you can do freezer meals, you could do a whole bulk, do a whole lot of raw packed of whatever and put those meals in the freezer. But the only thing is you've got to remember to take the freezer. You've got to take them out of the freezer. So that's why I love having the canned goods on the shelf, because for the moments or the times that you haven't had time or you've forgotten to take something out of the freezer, it will save you from spending extra money by going to the grocery store. Because I don't know about you, go for one thing and you come home with 10. And it's like, oh. So, so my classes are in person. We have, they're capped at 6. They're at my home. And we just have a nice chat. But it's also a bonding session. It's a get to know you session. It's storytelling. It's just getting to know each person that comes in the door. They're all diverse. Some people know each other, others don't. And it's just a nice, relaxed atmosphere. When I do the bread, we have a big bowl of soup and we share the bread afterwards. If we're doing the sponge class, of course we've got to eat it, don't we? So we have, cup of tea and sponge. We could do that. With the pressure canning, that's actually a 2-dayer, because you've got to come do the course in the morning, and then the next day you need to come back and collect your goods, because it takes they've got to cool. You can't transport them for 24 hours. So that's okay. The bread, as I said, people come home with bread, but they also eat some of the bread as well. So so that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaye. We have a message from Helen. She says, love all of these suggestions. I've always wanted to learn these tips. So Helen's watching live on LinkedIn right now. So thanks so much for watching, Helen. And so, Kaye, if people want to come to you to do the class, whereabouts are you in Australia?
Okay, so I'm in Melbourne. I'm in Edithvale, which is Bayside. So I've got my next classes that I've got coming up are dehydrating, and there's 2 classes before Christmas which is baking in jars, and they are they're good for gift giving. So and they're on Humanitext at the moment, but they will be coming out onto my Facebook group this week, which is called Grow Cook Store. So you can go and join the Facebook group. You'll be updated there. Website is really this far away. It's the copy's gone across, and the website's being built as we speak. So it won't be far. You'll be able to book and pay and everything through the website. But at the moment, you can do through Humanitext or get in contact with me.
And so I suggest, Kaye, when you finish this, go on to my profile. You'll see this video and you'll see the comment from Helen. Helen is also in Melbourne. So I suggest you have to connect with her and see where that takes you. But also, these things are so important, because so many times if you're not prepared when you come to cook a meal, what you do is end up going takeaway. And so you've got to be prepared and have things ready or half ready, so you don't go, oh, do you know what, I can't be bothered. And so that that canning thing that you showed in the middle, is that the thing that makes the pressure seal on top of the cans?
Yes, yeah, but there's what happens is you put put those jars. It's called canning, but they're jars. They're not cans. I think in the old, it's like people conjure up. They think I've got this big canning press out the back, and I've got baked beans coming out. But it's not like that at all. And you put them in. There's got a seal on it, a bit like a pressure cooker, but it's not. It's a canner. And because the pressure cooker does not get up to the same heat as a canner does. So you've got to make sure that it gets, and it will depend on your elevation as to how long and to what gauge you actually do. So there is a bit of, a bit of work involving just in working out what your elevation is. And it's pretty easy to, Google it. And then you just put the pressure gauge, once it gets up, it has to vent for about 10 minutes. Once you see the steam coming out, then you just put this gauge on. And then once the gauge starts to do a little bit of a hula dance, that's where you need it to actually stay at. And you just time it from there. And that's it. It's not hard. And I think a lot of people, they conjure up, blowing up or, because that's the pressure cooker. That's not the some of the canners can do that, but I mean, truly, you'd have to be pretty stiff to actually get that happening because they're so compliant now. Like the safety gauges that are on these gadgets now are just amazing. So yeah, I mean, yeah, they're fantastic. So I have no problems with it.
Thank you so much, Kaye. And another message from Helen. Quick, easy meals are great and preparing clean food is so important. And all these tips here are going to allow you to do that, to have your own pantry. And no doubt at some point we're going to see Kaye's pantry, which is a place that you can go and buy these wonderful foods from. I can see a hamper coming out. Oh, beautiful. I can see all these things. But Kaye, thank you so much. If you want to connect with Kaye, she's on all the socials. You can go and search Kaye Cramond on LinkedIn, or you can come just connect with me, send me a message, and I'm happy to do a connection for you. But Kaye, thanks so much for your time and sharing your expertise. It's great to see.
A quick question?
Go for it.
Thanks, Bobby.
Just sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to quickly, Kaye, you know how you were showing the meat, so that's the part I imagine many people will be looking at it and going, "You cooked a meal and it's meat and it's in a jar, and I'm going to put it on my shelf." I think you said 5 years.
Yeah.
How do you know if that's okay? So my mum used to still preserves all the stuff, and sometimes it'd be a bit fizzy and and that's like fruit. So how do you know with those kind of foods? Because there is a lot of kind of that, I think, those beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to make sure your seal, that seal is on. Like, there's no way that's coming off. You do have to be. You have to have sterilised jars. You've got to have health practices. You've got to make sure your hands are clean and you've got fresh produce and you're not using something that's dodgy, because you're going to end up with a dodgy product. So you're not going to end up with, you're going to put bruised fruit in, you're not going to get meat that's on the turn. You want fresh stuff to go in there. But I mean, you buy fresh, you buy canned salmon, you buy, there are canned chicken that you can get out there. So it's exactly the same. It truly is exactly the same. Canned salmon is, like in canning, is the best. It is so nice. It is like, I'll use the raw salmon and put that in and can it, and then I'll make salmon patties with that. Oh, wow. With the mashed potato and chives and capers and it is divine. It's not dry, it's light, it's air, it's just, I tell you, like, you come home, you go, I paid money for that. If I went out.
Come to Kaye's. Everyone go to Kaye's place.
But I mean, you're saving yourself. It's like there are days where you're just like, I just can't be fact. I just cannot. I can't.
Yeah, no, I can't.
I can't do it. I just can't face it. But I've got to have something. But I don't want an egg on toast. So. And
I don't want to buy takeaways either.
I don't want to buy takeaway. That's my main thing. I want to make sure that I'm leaving a legacy where people understand that there's food is nutrients and it gives you energy and because a lot of the stuff is eating cardboard. and they're empty calories. So.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful. Thanks, Kaye. It was really interesting. You made me hungry too.
Yeah, it looks delicious, especially that the leather stuff. That I love that kind of stuff. So
No.
having some
And the toffee,
healthy treats. Oh
the
yes.
pear and the apples and toffee. I'm like, are you serious? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just even having that stuff
the
ready to
bread.
go. Yeah, rather than going to a chocolate bar or something like that, you've got something a bit healthier, and you know what's in it because you've made it yourself, and
Yeah.
so it makes it so much easier. But Kaye, thank you so much, and appreciate you coming on, sharing your knowledge. And over to Caryn. Caryn, whenever you're ready, you can share the screen if you want and take it away.
I will part way through, but I'll start. So yeah, thanks, Bobby. As mentioned if you were on at the very beginning, I'll be sharing today a client's transformational journey. So this is about them going from struggle to strength. And when I speak about struggle, it is about those challenges that they presented to me when we first connected. And the strength is the results that they achieved throughout that journey with me. So the intention for this presentation is really to share the coaching process and some of the strategies and exercises behind it, because if you find you resonate with some of the struggles that the client had, then you too can potentially look at those strategies and those exercises and think, hey, I can actually implement those and try those out today for myself. Secondly, this is also sharing and shining a light on the benefits of coaching and how it can impact a person's life and journey and accelerate that growth for them, because I am passionate about coaching. It is a love of mine, and if I can help broaden that idea and the awareness around it of what benefits people can gain from coaching, then to me that's a really beautiful thing. So I'd like to get straight into it. I'll just quickly share the screen here. Find the right screen. There we go. So it is about struggle to strength, and let me just make sure that moves. So my name is Caryn White. I'm a J. Shetty certified coach. It's backed and accredited by the Association of Coaching from out of the UK. I specifically help women, professional women, to live their life's purpose with passion and calm. And when I talk about calm, for me, I've broken that into an acronym of finding that clarity, which I think most of us know what clarity is and what we want. Then it's about awareness. So I'll be talking a bit more about growing that awareness throughout this presentation. Leadership is about being that leader of your own life, and you're really taking charge and knowing where you're coming from and what you're doing. And I talk about money here because I feel like a lot of us, what I'm definitely finding is a lot of people have a relationship with money that there is a lot of control around it and feeling really overwhelmed about it. So this is really about healing that relationship and recognizing it's a tool. And when you're able to tap into that tool in a way, you can continue to make a positive impact in the world. So that's really what, for me, I've broken and redefined calm as. I have 20 plus years in the corporate space, mainly in the finance sector around being a CPA, a certified practicing accountant. And I did love my time in corporate, but there came a point where I didn't. And I'm very grateful that I was able to transition into having my own business and being a coach. But I also recognize that the knowledge and experience and the skills that I gained during my time in the corporate space have allowed me to build that trust and deeper rapport with my clients, because I'm able to meet them where they're at and they feel that I understand them a bit more because that's what they're going through currently or have been through and trying to get through as such. So today I'm going to be sharing a case study. It revolves around my client, Sarah. Obviously, I've changed the name. I'm going to keep a lot of things confidential, not dive too deep into it, but hopefully share the essence of this person's journey throughout this conversation, this presentation. So when Sarah met with me, she came with her own struggles and we talked about those. One was imposter syndrome. We all know what that is. It is that doubt for Sarah. It was really based around the idea that she felt like she wasn't qualified for what she was presenting herself to be. So a lot of that self-doubt led to lots of behaviors, which again, we'll speak to in a moment. There was a lot of lack of clarity because she was so busy trying to cover up for this imposter she was feeling. She didn't have the capacity or the time to be able to actually figure out what she actually really wanted. All she knew was that she wanted a break and everything was going a bit crazy for her. As a result of that, also, she felt like she lacked confidence. She didn't have the confidence to do things. She would constantly compare herself to others, feeling like, why can't I be a bit more like them? She could never see within herself that she actually had confidence or tap into that because she was feeling so overwhelmed. As a result of that as well, she had relationship challenges with work, professionally and personally, which were a result of how she was showing up in life. And she was having a big struggle about it and ruminating on those issues that she was having, but not knowing how to actually get through them. And as she put it, she felt like there were red flags showing up everywhere. And the reason she connected with me was she felt like if she didn't do anything, she was so close to burnout that this would be actually really awful for her. So in terms of those red flags, she felt like she just wanted to escape from her life as it was, just even for one day, just to get a break from what was going on. So I share that with you to give you sort of paint a picture of where she was at when she met with me. And I also wanted to share like her strengths as such, where she transformed to. So it sort of sets a framework for what we're going to be discussing today. So as a result of her journey that she's taken with me, her self-confidence improved. At a time when I said, she shared an example of something that was going on. I'm like, wow, this many months ago, you would have been thinking, oh my goodness, I feel like an imposter. How is the imposter showing up now? She goes, there's no imposter. So for me, I'm like, oh my goodness, do you hear yourself now? There's no imposter there. Like, you're not even worried about it. You're showing up with this newfound confidence, but just knowing and not even worried about that anymore, not doubting yourself. There was also, she felt more empowered in her personal life and her professional life to make decisions, set boundaries, which again improved her relationship. She was able to set boundaries, maintain them, but also show those to those others as well by actually saying, no, I can't do this right now, or come back soon, or whatever it might be. Further, she also had an enhanced sense of clarity and direction of where she was going. And I share this again because even though she's had this massive transformation, and hopefully you can see here, she obviously still was presented with a number of challenges throughout her journey. She still has them today. But the fact is that she's had this level of learning and she'll never go back to where she was because she had this massive transformation. And she can now tap into and go, okay, this time this is happening, but I know what to do. So the next stage is to talk about the coaching process that I took her through. So ultimately, I use this framework, which is from the Jay Shetty Certification School, and it's called the ABC to make it easy for her. And as you can see, you start with the awareness and you go up the ladder. As many of you probably know, this is not a linear process. Ultimately, as a coach, I'm wanting to help my client get to the competency level, that where they have those skills like I talked about right now, when something comes their way, they're able to tap into those skills and overcome that challenge or those obstacles really quickly, or find themselves way out of there. However, what typically happens, as I'll be sharing shortly, is that you build that awareness, you go through the accountability, you start building those goals, you start building those habits, and then you find yourself back at awareness because something pops up and you need to dig a bit deeper. But ultimately, this kind of process is where we're aiming for, to get that person to that point where in a particular area of their life, they feel like they're competent and they're able to move on. And I guess the beauty of coaching is that it's not about them relying on me to take them through. It's actually building that self within themselves, finding that strength so that they can actually continue it on and not be reliant upon the coach to actually bring them through forever. So out of all of that, we're using that process. Obviously, I didn't sit down and go, okay, this is the process we're going to use. We basically just talked through and had some conversation. Part of the coaching plan that we did actually kind of come up with, and I took her through, was, as mentioned, was focusing a lot on awareness. We had lots of conversations about those underlying drivers to these struggles that she represented, the imposter syndrome, the relationship struggles, the lack of clarity. What are those underlying drivers? So really digging down through, asking lots of questions and understanding what is going on behind that, and allowing that time for self-reflection, and also me reflecting back to her about what I can actually see happening and understanding what is driving that. There was also the audit part, which is identifying those key areas for improvement, looking at how do we set goals? What goals do you actually really want after you've got this awareness of yourself? What's that big goal that you're focusing on for our session? And obviously accountability was really key. Particularly when I work with clients for a long amount of time, you would tend to find that they'll forget where they were. I do it myself, you forget, oh, okay, you just keep going one thing after the other. So it was really important to check in, but also to focus on the progress, reflect back where the person had been, celebrate those little wins. And if things didn't go as planned, it's actually looking and going, okay, what went on, what's happening? And then we would find ourselves back at that awareness stage of digging into, okay, what's going on, and unpacking that. So some of the key strategies that I want to highlight here that we use, there's obviously not all of them, that were really quite clear that we used through it, was, as mentioned, self-reflection. So one of the parts was, as I mentioned, the person felt like there was lots of red flags showing up in their life. They were very busy and lots of self-doubt going on. One of the key parts was they felt like they weren't making time for self. And so it was really figuring out, how do you even find just 10 minutes in a day for self-reflection? For her, she found that the best way of self-reflecting was through journaling. Some people I find don't actually like writing things down and they prefer to kind of voice it. And so there's actually apps where you can actually, like lots of AI apps where you can actually reflect to an app and it will record it and then you can reflect back on that. But for her, journaling was the most important thing for Sarah, to actually get those things out of her head and onto paper. And went to the point where she was actually able to look at that and go, some of the stuff's just not important. Why am I allowing this to control me? And from that, she was able to actually make decisions, because she got to the part where she was actually able to, when the thought was coming, ask herself, like, what do I actually want to achieve from this? And she found that if she asked herself that question and she recognized that it wasn't important, she was able to let it go, which was amazing. The other part was challenging those negative and beliefs and behaviors. That was really important. And I will speak to this in a moment, of a key exercise that we went through for that. But really, as mentioned with the imposter syndrome, there was a lot of things like, why was she thinking she wasn't qualified? She had the experience, she didn't have the qualifications. So what was driving her to make her feel like she had to be qualified? Reframing those beliefs that she had. We all have them, right? We have those beliefs from childhood normally, or even things that have happened throughout our lives, which made us think and feel in a certain way. So when we approach another situation very similar, that's exactly how we behave. And sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. So once we dug into it and got that awareness around it, we were able to reframe those beliefs and help her realize that maybe that's not true anymore. Maybe that's not who I am. There was obviously identifying those big goals, as mentioned. It was really key to have that, because our sessions had to be focused on the bigger goal, and then underneath it, we had each time she could have, but it was keeping her aligned with that. Otherwise, what tends to happen is you go in all directions, and then ultimately you get to the end of our contract together and you find like, I didn't actually achieve what I wanted. But if, as a coach, I can hold that part, that big goal in my hand, and allow her to kind of explore everything beneath it, but keeping on track and making sure that that's actually still where she wants to go, if that makes sense. And obviously there was lots of building healthy habits, because we all have habits in place. Some of them are good, some are not so good, but a big part of actually achieving those goals is really digging into that. What is the habit I'm wanting to build? And really building it from a place of understanding why you're wanting to build it, and really digging into the what, the hows, and when you're going to build that habit. So there was a lot of kind of talking through that. And when I share this, it's not saying that you go through boom, 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 boom. The conversation you have within these coaching sessions is very much like, oh, it looks like we want to build this. And then I'm taking you through a questioning process. So it's not like you're sitting down doing homework every day. The habits are being built within the conversations of me asking those questions versus having to sit there with a piece of paper in front of you and trying to nut it out that way. So I really wanted to highlight in the next couple of slides, 2 key exercises that I use for these 2 things, the behaviors and identifying the big goal. So if you can recall, I talked about the audit process and the steps of like the coaching process. So a key part of that I find is really helpful is the wheel of life. So you may have seen this before. This is the one that I use. Sometimes they have 12 sections. Effectively, this represents you. You're in the middle, and these are parts of you. So it's not like you just take one part away. Every part of you impacts you as a person and how you show up in other areas. So when I took Sarah through this, the red line, I mean, this obviously doesn't represent how exactly she scored herself, but it's really asking, okay, like in this area of personal growth, where do you rate yourself? There's a series of questions we go through, and she rated herself at these levels, and same with the others. Then it's saying, okay, the next 3 months, where do you want to be in this particular area of your life? So for example, you could have romance down at 0 because you don't have a partner, but you might actually say, I don't actually want a relationship in the next 3 months. So again, you might rate it at 0. It's not saying that, oh, ideally I need to be at 10 for everything, because that's not possible in 3 months to focus on all those areas. The key is to understand, okay, behind this, which is the most important. And I find it really interesting because, as you can see for Sarah, hopefully, the area that showed up for her as the biggest gap was actually fun and recreation. And so what we went a bit further was, it's okay, well, what does that mean for you? And she defined it as time for self without feeling guilty and worrying about what was happening in her profession. And that in itself it wasn't fun and recreation. I'm going to go out and, go dancing with my friends or go hang out with my family or whatever. It was literally just time for self. And to her, that time for self was like, could I just have 10 minutes to myself? And being present in the moment as well. So that was a big one for her to find that, because you can imagine a person struggling with imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, just trying to control everything around them. They don't have the time for self. They think that's the least important thing, because all they're trying to do is control everything happening externally. So this made absolute sense. She didn't mean it to like measure this way, but when it did, I was like, okay, based on what you've shared with me, this makes sense. And I think a really key reflection she came back to me afterwards was she said to me, it all starts with me. And I think, oh my goodness, you get it. Like, you get it. She looked at the wheel of life and she saw these parts of her life, and she realized that for her to make the changes, she had to start with herself. And that's the most beautiful thing you can hear when you're a coach, is to hear someone say that, because ultimately it is about them starting with their self. You don't have control over everything in your external environment, but you do have control over a lot of what you're doing. So that's a really key exercise that I took her through. The other, as I mentioned, was about the negative belief, the negative emotions, those behaviors, and what was going on. And so this was really looking at the awareness. So you might have seen an iceberg, you might have seen a triangle, whatever you might see. Hopefully this illustrates it in a clear way. The little squiggly line just here, this is obviously above the surface. So think of it like an iceberg, if you like. These are our behaviors. This is what everyone's seeing. This is what we're seeing. When you dig into the awareness a bit more, you start to see the things below the surface. You start to see those negative beliefs and those emotions. And typically, the negative beliefs and emotions are around that we feel like we're not worthy, that we're not deserving, and we're not enough. And below there, what's driving that is that unmet need. So we crave connection. We want to be accepted. We want to belong. We want to be loved. And you can probably feel into that right now and think of those behaviors that maybe you're displaying. And if you break it down a little bit further, you'll see that, oh my goodness, okay, I can see that. So to share an example using Sarah as an example without going too far into it, the behavior itself that she was displaying, one of them was that need to control everything around her and the people around her, being frustrated with them. That was coming from a place of feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. Her emotions were and close to burnout. As a result, she had that belief, I'm not enough. I am an imposter. I'm not deserving of showing up as this person that I'm presenting myself as. And as a result, her behavior was trying to just make everything perfect, trying to make everything look the way that it needed to look like based on what she believed she needed to show, because she felt like an imposter. And underlying that was the need that she felt like she just wanted to be accepted. She wanted to be accepted by her peers. So you can hopefully visualize here and understand that a person suffering from imposter syndrome, showing that behavior of being really controlling, which is then obviously exhausting and burning her out almost, she's coming from that place where she doesn't feel like she's enough. So she has to make it up by that way, because otherwise she's a fraud. She's also coming from that place where she just wants to be accepted. Think about that young child, that young person that you just want to belong to something. You want to feel connected and accepted by others. So once we unpacked this, it was that moment of like, and she had to sit with it. And yes, it still starts to show up a little bit, but the moment is to actually, we would then tap into that and go, okay, where's the time when you actually felt like you were accepted? What did that feel like? What was going on? Then taking that experience and then going, how now can you use this experience and this knowledge in your real life now? And how can you remember that? Which then helps you actually unpack that and realize, oh yeah, maybe it's okay. I feel confident in myself. I don't need to crave that. As such, I won't need to control everything because I feel accepted in myself. I don't need that as much. So it's a really interesting journey. It's obviously a very deep journey to go through, but it was really lovely to sort of see you have that recognition of that moment of just like, oh my goodness, yeah, that's maybe what I'm looking for. And that's why I feel this way. So to reiterate and come back to it, her struggles, as mentioned, imposter syndrome, lack of clarity, relationship challenges, confidence issues, red flags showing up everywhere, just wanting to escape. Going into these strengths as such, or what she achieved in these results, was self-confidence, no evidence of imposter, empowered in both personal and professional life, improved relationships, like massive improvement, enhanced clarity and direction. And some of the most beautiful things she shared with me was those moments when she was able to set those boundaries and put those things in place. There's also a part with relationships. She was able to realize that she couldn't control that person. She needed to let them have their own path. And she was able to pull back from that and didn't have that desire and the urgency to kind of try and control that, in fear that if something they did would impact her, and then that would show her as the imposter that she felt she was at that time. So her transformational journey was really beautiful, and I'm really privileged to have been part of it. And this is some of the things she shared with me. She never thought of these things. this action plan felt doable. She was like so grateful and about guiding and showing that she had these abilities and skills, because she did. She had them all along. She just had a lot of noise going on. So, understanding what's of importance. As I mentioned, she came to that point of asking herself, is this important? What do I want to achieve about this? And if she didn't feel it was important, she would let that go. And then she knows that she could achieve many things, and she didn't think that she could navigate it. So she figured that she needed to trust the process and lean on others and asking for that support, and that it wasn't a weakness to ask for that support. So yeah, I hope from this you've gained some understanding of the journey that this person's gone through. I'm really privileged to have witnessed it and really honored to actually be able to do that with all my clients. And if you are interested in that exercise that I shared about the 4 steps of awareness, you can scan here and go to my website, karynwhite.com, and you can download it. And these are other ways that I can also support you if you're interested. So I would invite you to check out my website. It's just new. I heard what Kaye was saying before about her website close to launch. It's a massive step, but I really love what it's able to do in terms of allowing you to go in there and explore and find out a bit more about how I can support you. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Caryn, thank you so much. It was so so powerful, and to see the journey, like I said, I mentioned before, to see your journey from almost day one to where you are now and presenting on what you're presenting. It's some amazing tips, and congratulations on the success of that client as well. So, taking you down that journey, and it's a journey of self-discovery, isn't it? Sometimes we have to look inside us a lot more than we really want to.
Yeah.
And so these things that you're talking about, is it only for business owners?
No, I would say it's for professionals, so people in careers, women in careers as well. I feel like we all suffer from imposter. I remember doing a poll, and some of us were like, yeah, no, I know the imposter's there, but I'm able to push through it. Like, I'm able to acknowledge it and then move on. But I think there's lots of people, I would say definitely professional people in careers, or even looking for their careers, even like, trying to look for that next job, feeling like they're not qualified for it. And I think, there was one client, a male client that I had recently, and yeah, massive imposter syndrome. And it was all just about really understanding and digging in and going, okay, you feel like you're not qualified that. Would you actually want that job? And it's like, actually, no, I don't want that job. But there was a desperation behind that, because feeling like, oh, I need to get a job, I need to get a job. And I think that then our negative thoughts and stuff start popping in and really starting to influence where we're actually going in our actions. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the imposter. That's what I would suggest. Just like, acknowledge what it's saying to you, and don't look at it as a bad thing. I really feel like you look at it and go, okay, it's telling me that maybe, there's a sign there that maybe I need to get more experience. Maybe I need to talk to someone about this. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, because when you allow it to be a bad thing, it becomes a bad thing.
And I guess you gave a great example there about someone who's looking for a job, and obviously being in recruitment, I see that quite a lot. But it can also be about someone who's already in that job, and they feel like, hey, I'm not good enough to do this job.
Yeah.
And so
they're running around and they're burning themselves out. And I've been there, where you're trying to make, trying to put everything in place to make it look like you're in control, where you're like inside, you feel like a hamster just running on a little wheel. So yeah,
yes.
It'd be tough.
2 amazing presentations, and I feel a bit of a cheat, really, because I get to see these presentations by great people all the time, and it feels like I've got my own school of people teaching me new things every time I watch a presentation. If you would like to come and meet both Kaye and Caryn, they will be at Bobby's Business Club every fortnight on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock Brisbane time. Highly suggest come along and meet them. If you would like to have a one-to-one with them, you can just reach out to them, obviously, via the QR codes that they've shared, or you can connect with them on LinkedIn. If you would like me to connect you, I'm happy to do that. They are amazing people, and they are great networkers as well. It's not just about the services they provide. They also connect you with amazing people who can help you with whatever you need in your businesses as well. But ladies, thank you very much for your time. Please do stay on while we close the show. But guys, this will be repeated again. So if you're watching the repeat, thank you so much. Thank you for your comments and watching it live as well. And we'll see you on the next show. I'll see you soon. Bye.